And here we are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? It's Dan from Atlas Lens Co., and we're here for a special edition of our telecast. It's Wednesday, not Tuesday, and we have a very special guest today. It's Michael Thomas.
Hello,
from
everyone.
From Module 8 Optics, right?
Module 8 Optics, that's right.
Very cool. And Michael, you have a long and storied career in the optical industry. So, if you don't know Michael's work, Google Module 8, take a look at some of the great things he's done. You are definitely a part of the Moment lenses, right?
Yeah. I was a co-founder of Moment Lens, with my independent company, and it's turned into quite an accessible and successful brand for them. So,
Really cool. I actually really love those Moment anamorphic lenses for the phones. I think that's really cool. And so, he's been in the industry a very long time, and you co-founded Module 8 with Ian Neal, right?
That's correct, yes.
So Ian Neal, another legend in the optical industry.
A bit of a secret weapon. I mean, Ian's just got his 13th Academy Award.
Wow.
He's designed some of the most iconic lenses, that they're from his Panavision days to some of the stuff he's done recently. He has a real sense of the art and science of what a cinematic look should be. So having him apply his next sort of idea to this product was too good to be true, as they say.
So if you don't know, if you're just tuning in, Module 8, in a nutshell, is a lens adapter with a built-in optical group that allows you to transform the performance of a normal lens into a lens that you might say has more vintage character, right?
Exactly.
And I think when we were talking off camera, you said you call it V-tuning.
Yeah.
Some people call it D-tuning. Could you tell us why you call it V-tuning?
Yes.
And a little bit more about that?
Exactly. So the reason we call it V-tuning is because it's a variable tuner. That's sort of the core of the intellectual property. A lot of people are detuning lenses now. It's super fun. You can create different looks, but it's tedious. It's one look. It's change something, see the effect, change something, see the effect. This guy here, basically, we pick a specific look that we've designed, and then we can vary it from low up to its maximum. So you can get more effect, more character, or less effect, less character, but you can also do things like sort of work to your deliverable. Maybe you're going to deliver it on an iPhone screen, maybe you're going to look at it on a 60-inch monitor, so the strength can be adjusted. It's very, interplays very well with aperture, and it just becomes a really rapid way to create what people will call a detuned vintage look, but we're V-tuning it because we're very precise, we're very precise, and we're very
Adjustable.
We know exactly what we're creating.
That's so cool. And I think for those of us just joining the stream, we've got Michael Thomas from Module 8 Optics, and you're looking at us thanks to fantastic technical production run by B on the Atlas team here, and we're looking at us through a Sony Venice camera, which we popped the PL mount off and revealed the Sony E mount that's underneath the PL mount on the Venice, and we've got a Module 8 L1 tuner. There's actually 3 different tuners in the lineup right now. So we've got an L1 model, and we've got an 80mm Orion series lens. So you're looking at us through an 80mm Orion with an L1 tuner, and I think we're actually at the lowest setting of the tune. So a little bit later in the stream, if you stay tuned in, we'll actually run through the different levels, and they're indexed. So you actually have, if we think of it as a full number, you actually have like quarter stop adjustments between the different numerical readouts, right?
Quarter look adjustments. Yeah,
exactly. So that's so cool. So I actually backed this product on Kickstarter, and so I'm really excited to actually receive mine. I know that
they're shipping as fast. As soon as we get them, they're shipping out. So we're hoping to have those orders fulfilled in the next.
I think my tracking number just came in through the Kickstarter, so that's pretty exciting. And those initial rollouts that you introduced were mirrorless mount to Canon EF mount. Right. So if you're using something like a Sigma Art lens, a Rokinon, Canon zoom or Canon prime lens in EF mount. There's so many fantastic EF mount lenses, and at the beginning of my career, most of the lenses I was using to shoot motion picture work were actually EF mount lenses because I'd adopted DSLR cameras early on when that was first used for motion picture capture, which, before that, a lot of us in the indie low budget world were using do you remember any of those depth of field adapters people were using, like a Red Rock Micro or a Letus Extreme?
Yes.
So yeah, we were using those, and it was like, oh my gosh, well, this is definitely a rig. When you get all that stuff on there with the spinning ground glass adapter. And
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, people love tinkering with this stuff. They always will. So we're not trying to discourage that experimentation and that tinkering, but we also trying to make it more accessible, more affordable, more just like, okay, I just need to shoot this. I want something specific, something unique for my piece, and I'm just going to use these. And I want to get my job done.
It's a
You
great.
should still hold on to your K35s and your Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
Shoot
this.
those for your.
This is not going to replace those vintage optics, but it's a nice way of adding a little bit of flavor, right? It's like peppering the lens to taste if you're working with something like a Sony FX6 or even the new upcoming Burano, for instance, or like a Red Komodo, Red Raptor with the RF mount. So the initial rollout, you had the E mount, the RF mount,
Yes.
and then those go to an EF mount, right?
Right.
E
So yeah,
and RF.
on the prime side, we always have to start with a longer flange distance. So we've got EF, and then we can adapt to either E or RF. Any mirrorless, we just had to, because we're supporting electronics and the electronics development's a bit pricey. We picked RF and E as the rollout. We were obviously excited when we saw the Blackmagic L mount decision. So you can expect us to be, heading in that direction as soon as we can. And same thing with PL. Once we did EF, everyone said, "Can you do PL?" We said, "Well, yes, but we can do PL to some extent because there's optics in there. It's almost like the same concept of a speed booster, although it's much more complicated. It's a real zoom lens, but we still have optics back there. So any PL lenses that extend past the back of the mount will potentially interfere. So when we start shipping our PL version, we'll ship with a template that says, okay, for L1, L2, and L3, here's your different depths.
Oh yeah, a lot of the Atlas users are very familiar with those great template depth gauges. So we have our 1.6 times LF extender, which makes all the Orion series fully compatible with full frame and bigger sensors. And then you can also use it to create more telephoto focal lengths by using the 80 and the 100.
Right.
So you get like an effectively 127 and 160 millimeter. I have an Orion 80 and 100. We also have our 1.4 expander. So we have depth gauges that you can actually print and calibrate at home. Looks like we might have a...
Audio is not working. I'm not sure if it got unplugged from the transmitter or if it's turned off.
It's turned off, it looks like.
Here, let me help you out.
On the side.
So I think it might be this guy. So thanks for staying tuned in with us. I'm just checking his glucose right now. No, actually, just kidding. We got the mic up and running. Looking good. Okay, so for those of us just tuning in, we're talking with Michael Thomas from Module 8 Optics, and we're looking at the new tuner modules, and we're fortunate enough to be looking at one of the world's first PL tuners. So this is actually a Sony E mount to PL, and you're looking at us through a Sony Venice with an 80 millimeter Orion with the L1 model of tuner. And they call it V tuning because the V is for variable tuning. So they've got these great index marks so you can track what settings you like for a particular lens or particular project, and that way you can trace how much you've detuned or V-tuned the lens to taste. So do we have any questions coming in from the audience out there? Normally I've got the computer going here, but I just sort of jumped out of the van and started running and gunning today.
No worries. The tuning there, what's important about it is actually stays in focus as you tune. So you can technically do a look ramp. So we're maintaining 20 to 40 cycles of resolution even as you turn that tuner knob. So even though you're going to start seeing all the halation, you're going to start seeing some roll off, so the reflection off your pupils, the core focus of your scene won't change. So we think that's a really neat trick to be able to, to pull off, and it's hard to do in manufacturing. So
That is that is clever, because normally if you're moving something like back focus, you're going to be throwing out overall focus. So that's fantastic, that the system that they've designed.
When you're doing real detuning and you're taking lenses out and turning and flipping lenses, you're changing. You're chasing that. You're chasing that back focus adjustment.
So then you end up doing a lot more dancing, right? You might say.
Days
Pretty
of
cool.
detouning, yeah.
So yeah, if there's any questions coming in from the audience out there, we'd love to take those on.
We did get a question asking about what mounts it will be available in.
Okay, so I'll be able to take that question while we're fixing Michael's microphone right now.
Just told me to sing. That's
The
why.
microphone. So initially, the original Modulate tuner modules would come with a base mount of Canon RF and Sony E. They're looking into like a Panasonic L mount, right?
Yes.
So that's great for everyone out there who loves L mount, whether you're a Panasonic or Blackmagic user with the upcoming Blackmagic 6K.
Yep. That's what it took. We were sort of waiting to see if that happened, whether we were going to support L or not, but almost definitely will now.
And then they're introducing PL mount on the taking side, but this is not going to work with every single lens out there because some of the optics may interfere with different lenses. But if your lens has a long back working distance and the optics don't protrude too far back, they'll pretty much work. So I think these definitely work with all of the Tokina Vista Primes.
Yeah, they're fantastic on the Vista Primes. Sort of on the, we've got Zeiss Radiance, we've got Leica Summilux. Those are sort of the expensive sets.
Yeah.
The Sigmas without the rear baffle, really clean lens that really lends a lot of this type of tuning. The Vista Primes are fantastic. And yeah, a lot of the more modern PL lenses where things don't stick out the back tend to work. You'll run into trouble with like ultra primes and S4s because especially the wide angle lenses, those are pushed way back. So this is a baby step to saying, okay, we want to do some PL stuff. We want to make people happy, but we can't make you all the way happy yet.
Yeah, it's always progress. Any step forward is an exciting step in our industry.
Exactly.
And I have a sort of off-topic question. What would you say is your top favorite movie of all time?
The first movie that comes to my head is Jaws. I mean, I don't think that's uncommon for a male of my age to say that Jaws was the best.
You're
movie
only
they've ever
25,
seen.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
25-year-olds like Jaws. I see a lot of
bit.
25-year-old kids with Jaws T-shirts. So
Yeah. I love that. I love everything about that movie. Recite the lines. Love the cinematography. Love everything.
it's
everything
amazing.
about it. Yeah.
How do you feel about Maximum Overdrive? Not quite Jaws, is it?
I don't think I'm not sure I've seen it.
That's another Spielberg movie where it's like a truck that's like chasing people.
No, I've never seen that. I've never seen that one.
Definitely, that's a weekend viewing assignment, I think.
Okay, we'll give it a try.
Classic.
We'll give it a
They
try.
filmed a lot of that out near where I live, out in the Santa Clarita area. So
All right.
definitely a local favorite.
Yeah. Also, I love my daughter got to be in Coda. She was Audra in Coda, so obviously Coda is close to my to my heart. So.
And then let's see if there's any other questions coming in. But otherwise, we could try actually V-tuning live in a moment here.
One thing about this, one of the reasons we did the adapter, because again, Ian invents this thing. He did this patent 5 years ago, right? So he's always sort of thinking what's coming down the pike, and this could have been built into a $30,000 set of prime lenses. This could have been an exclusive elitist type of thing, and because of what I've done with Moment and Moment's ability to reach like a much broader audience, Ian's willingness to try to come up with something that's really as accessible to as many people as possible, we decided to do this as adapter and keep it as inexpensive as we can and keep it as flexible as we can. So we're not sort of doing top down and trickling down the tech. We're actually starting with the broadest base we can, which we're really excited about.
I think one of the best parts about it is with the original ones that you introduced, the fact that there is electronic communication between the camera body and the lens allows for people to use the fantastic autofocus that now works great for motion pictures from companies like Sony and Canon. whose autofocus is actually quite usable in real motion picture scenarios now. So to see the ability to have sort of a vintage style look, but with the convenience of autofocus for very fast documentary style filmmaking or very quick shooting, and having that vintage look, but with the convenience of autofocus is a really interesting point.
Yeah.
And makes it more accessible, like you said, which is what Atlas is all about, making cinematography more accessible, putting the power of cinematography in your hands. And I think we have a question coming in, B. Thank you.
Two kind of matching questions. What are we looking at right now, and how is compatibility with Orions and Mercury's?
Yes, so we're going to put out a full compatibility list within the next 2 weeks that shows which of the tuner modules will work with each of the Atlas lenses. Right now you're looking at us through an 80 millimeter Orion series at about a T2.8. Might have gone to a T2.
T2.
We jumped around a lot before the stream. So we're wide open on the Orion 80 millimeter, and we're looking at us on the Venice 1 in 4K 6.5 aspect ratio mode with the L1 tuner, and I believe we have it at the very lowest setting, so the weakest
It's on 8?
V-tune strength.
7 or 8. That's
Okay,
actually,
I lied.
You lied. That's okay.
Got me.
No, we're about 80% of the way there. And the PL mount tuner, because we wanted to make it more compatible with more PL lenses, we actually limited the amount of strength that the PL version has over the EF, because we have more room,
more travel.
Because the EF lenses are consistent. There's no the flange depth is the flange depth. But with the PL, with that lens sticking into the space, it's just a lot more erratic. So we chose to give ourselves a little bit more space, and maybe take just a little bit of effect off the top. But our three effects, we mentioned the tunings. Our L1 is inspired by the Super Baltar, so it's a lot about halation. It's a lot about that kind of look. It's really well done at like T2.4, which is the original Baltar. It looks great, but then you can actually crank it all the way down to T1.4 if you want to, and you can really make the look much more extreme. Our L2 was inspired by K35s. Inspired means, Ian looks at the patterns, we look at projection, we just sort of get a vibe of a lens. And those lenses, as everyone knows, for vintage can vary across the focal length range, can vary across the set. So this is sort of our generalized, hey, this is the vibe of Super Baltars. This is the vibe of K35s. And the third look is this is the vibe of the astigmatism you get in an anamorphic lens without shooting anamorphic. But of course you should always shoot anamorphic, because
If you can.
yeah, if you can.
So I mean, we were playing with the L2 a little bit the other day, and the first thing I noticed was how different the bokeh was.
Yeah.
And in a good way, like it really transforms the shape of the spot a little bit in a way that it sort of geometrically forms. So.
Yeah, it'll do that sort of soap bubble thing where if it's a uniform bokeh disc and you start to crank the strength up, it'll start to give you those little sort of hot spots around the edges. The tuner affects both image quality, with mostly contrast, as well as bokeh. So as you're going in and out of focus, it's also giving you just a different look of how those transitions happen as it is when you're static and focused on a spot with you're dialing in your amount of resolution. So.
And you can see us out of focus there. So B, thank you so much for going to minimum focus. You can see the bokeh shape. And then if you could slowly rack the tuner from the weakest strength to the strongest.
We're at the weakest.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a little hard to see in the stream, but I can see it in the witness monitor here. It's actually quite interesting to see.
Yeah. On a like a T1.5 spherical prime, you'll almost get like a rose petal type of bokeh. It'll do some really crazy things to the to the bokeh. The L1.
Would you say that any of the tuner modules do anything to the geometry of the frame? So does it do anything with distortion?
No, the distortion really, it's almost like a pass-through. It's something, even though the tuner is powered very slightly, it really almost is a zero power device. So things are just passing through. So we're not really affecting distortion at all. The magnification is basically one. I think they're all within maybe 3%. So you might get like a 3% expansion off this thing. But fundamentally, it's a 1x unit, so we're not really losing any stops. We're only losing a little bit of transmission due to the couple of surfaces, but they're anti-reflection coated, so probably well less than a tenth of a stop overall.
Really fascinating, and I love the build quality of the product, actually, especially the wings on the PL mount are really nice.
Yeah.
And the EF mount one that you showed me earlier really works well. It locks in really nicely.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about this. And I noticed you have a gear ring on the tuner.
The power of Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter feedback that we got was lose the rubber ring and give us some gears, and we did that. And you can see that we, instead of just sort of bolting on a gear, those are integrated into the barrel. Those are machined into the barrel. Kind of an expensive process for us to do for this price point. And then the other thing is it has a lens support. That was something that the Kickstarter users asked us to put on, so we did.
Yeah, I'm grateful to see that. Really cool. So yeah, let's see if there's any other questions coming in. But so far, I have to say that my favorite was the L3 with the astigmatism.
Okay.
I mean, it's quite a strong effect. It's quite apparent in the outer parts of the field.
Yes.
And just sort of the way that the overall look of the lens transforms.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. It's pretty heavy-handed, not in a bad way, in a good way. But I think that I also like the L1 because I love vintage Baltars. And so I love that sort of a little bit of halation, spherical aberration that you get with Baltars and seeing how that is transformed through the lens. And so we have a question coming in through B.
What are the differences between L1, L2, L3?
So I'll let Michael speak about that. We're going to answer the question from the audience. How would you describe the L1 tuner, the L2 tuner, and the L3 tuner?
All right, so as we say, the L1 was inspired by the Super Baltars, and the word that comes to mind is glow and halation. So when they're open wide, you'll see some of that nice halation, especially on the wide angle ones. You'll see the 20 millimeter Baltar sort of really roll off in resolution, where the 50 and the 100 doesn't. So this one's all about going from on but not zero to really, really extreme. So it's all about halation on axis. It's all about halation off axis. We do a pretty big roll off, astigmatism, some coma. It's just a really apparent effect.
Yeah, the coma was really
It's just a really apparent effect. The L2 is a much more subtle effect. Its zero is very close to a neutral. And then when you crank it all the way to 10, what you're really doing is you're changing the center of the frame. You're giving it just enough halation to make your skin tones, just a little bit of smoothing. There's a much smaller amount of roll off in the field, so just a little bit of astigmatism, and it stays kind of constant. Like it's not changing as much as the L1. And then L3 is our field effect, where we're actually keeping the center basically in focus. And as you go off from about just under S35 to full frame, we're bringing in a fairly strong amount of astigmatism, not field curvature. So we've got these really just funky depth of field effects that you can never quite seem to get anything at the edges in focus. We call it retroscope. And when Ian put that look together, he was thinking the astigmatism I'd find in a really old anamorphic lens without the lens being anamorphic.
I'm actually really excited to combine that with one of our anamorphic lenses.
Yes.
And then see how wild we can get.
Yeah, like a 1.5 Mercury or something. You're just giving you're giving it more, because the image might be cleaner with a lower. I don't know how you guys design your lenses, but you can get a sharper lens if you pull the anamorphic ratio down. So
yeah, with Orions, we focused on giving them sort of a vintage Baltar style look when you're wide open at a T2.
Okay. Yes.
So they have more spherical aberration. Fifth order spherical is sort of the design parameter.
Okay.
Keeping a T2 aperture, and then in a way we have a little bit of variable tuning in the lens itself. So once you're down to around a 2.3 or a 2.4, some of that spherical aberration will start to go away, and by a 2.8. And Orion is actually a very clean lens throughout the field, and we have a very flat field performance.
Okay.
So, if you line up a group of people at about a 4-foot distance from the image plane, you'll be able to keep all those people flat and sharp across the field.
One other thing about the looks is we just said about the aperture. This works the same way. There's spherical aberration in the field, and those tails, they do their thing, right? And as you start to stop your lens down, you'll start to lose the effect of the tuners. The L1 tuner is probably, you're still going to see effect at 2.8 and even up to 4. Where with the L2, which is it'll work great at T1.5, but maybe by T2.8 the effect is much more reduced. If it's almost imperceptible. The L3, because it's a astigmatism, it's always there. So that's the one you can shoot that. You can shoot that at 5.6. You can shoot that at f8. So it's a little bit about what speed you're going to be shooting at. Some people have come to us and said, "Boy, I'm really tired of diffusion." Even halation is diffusion, so they're really excited for L3 as well because it's a different type of effect than
I'm excited to try that at a 16, like super deep stop diffraction level, basically. And
it'd be interesting to see where that sort of gives up. I mean, I was showing demos yesterday in 5.6. It was just like the edges were still going.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then I think, let's see, was there another question that we forgot about there? I'm thinking about that. But
yeah, we talked about the different looks.
If you want to find out more about Modulate Optics, is the best place to go www.thewordmodule, MODULE, numeral 8.
No, you're going to have to stick.
No.
Unfortunately, you have to stick the hyphen in there because I couldn't get
numeral
8.com.
.com.
Yes, and
I love the pun there. Like being a dad myself, puns are like my favorite thing. So modulate, I'm imagining that's a play on modulation transfer function.
It is. It's a play on modulation, resolution, looking at projection charts, looking at the details, and also because these are sort of a lens module, the modular part of it sort of sticks in there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, really excited for these. And I think you guys did a really nice job on the coatings too. Like it has a very subtle effect to the flare.
Yeah.
It's not too heavy-handed. I think I had a flashlight here to flare the lens, but I might have lost it. Well, here it is. So I'll see if I can ping that 80 with a little bit of a flare there. Very subtle. And are we at like the low end of the tune right now?
We're at a 6, about halfway.
Okay, so if you give me a 10, we'll go all the way up. Yeah, it's not going to change the flare that much, but overall, like just the overall look is really pretty.
The flare, the flare is mostly set by the prime lens because that's where most of the elements are. We only have a few elements, but there are cases where certain sources will give you just a very nice sort of purplish, very nice color. Yeah.
I think it's doing something nice in terms of the way it's interacting. Like sometimes we have like flares off the sensor cover glass.
Yes.
And so I feel like the way the cover glass is interacting with the module is actually quite pleasing. So
it's really, this is the first time I've actually seen these things on a 2x anamorphic. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of interplay going on between
we can give you a lot more time with our lenses. Happy to loan you some.
Thank you.
Let you enjoy. So if there's any other questions from Michael from Module 8, really grateful to have you here. Grateful to take a look.
And these are basically, we're shipping to our Kickstarter people right now. We're trying to get the EF versions in stock as fast as we can, and even locally. I mean, we just Hot Rod Camera. Ilya is going to carry these for us. We're going to try to get our distribution network really set up so you can try and buy these. We're going to try to put demo units as many places as we can. So we can.
And can people also order from Moment.com?
Yeah, shopmoment.com. Moment's kind of our e-commerce partner on this and our logistics partner. So if you go to shopmoment.com, you can order.
I've ordered from them and I had a really fantastic experience. So I figured I should shout them out. Shout out Moment.
Those guys have been great. I mean, Moment's a company I go way back with, and just in terms of the industrial design, in terms of the packaging. I mean, this is the kind of thing that they've just really knocked it out of the park with.
And I think the Moment front anamorphic adapter that you guys came out with is actually really nice. So maybe we could do a little future review of that in a stream or something. And it looks like we have one more question coming in from the audience.
Any thoughts to LPL to PL?
Any thoughts? This the whole thing about PL to PL or LPL to PL are things that we are looking at and seeing what we can do. Obviously, PL to PL, E to E, these are tricky because it's basically lens flange minus camera flange. And that's some room that you want. And in a PL to PL or E to E, that number is 0. So all we get is the expansion from the glass, from the thickness of the glass. So it's really challenging. Yes, there are thoughts. Everyone is asking us to do it. We've got some ideas. almost everything that you do that's that sort of non-conventional requires some sacrifice to the optics gods. So
I almost feel like, another point about that is like, once you're getting into that budgetary level, you almost might want to just rent the vintage lenses or, use actual vintage lenses. No shots fired on this product. I think it's super. But if you're using something like a Sony FX6 or an FX3 or like a Canon C70 or a Komodo from Red, these make a great combination with that, because then maybe you're using something that you want to use that autofocus from time to time, but you also want to mix in vintage looks without always being vintage, depending on the project. So I think like the modular versatility of this really sings in sort of that hybrid environment where you're getting to like Sony FX6 world or Red Komodo world or Canon C70. And I know that there's going to be, eventually there will be some Canon RF cinema cameras that I think are just going to kick major ass when those come out. So really excited to see what Canon does with a native RF cinema camera. Shout out Canon, can't wait to see what you do. And I think, also like the power of autofocus combined with a tool like this really opens up a lot of possibilities.
That some of our Kickstarter people were kind of frustrated that we weren't doing multi-mount on the EF, but the reason we're not doing multi-mount is because we think that autofocus is so important. So each tuner needs its own board, depending on the base camera that you use, and we can't have people taking mounts off because those connectors are only good for so many iterations. So we really prioritized autofocus. The PL versions don't have any electronics, so that's the way to maybe get.
It is a real blessing to hear people asking for stuff too. I think like what that means is that people are really thrilled about the product. So in a way,
the reception's been great.
Nobody can do everything all the time, but just to throw one more product request into your bin, I would love for the PL mount one the opportunity to put this on Fujifilm GFX 102. So if you made a non-autofocus GFX 102 mount, you're going to have at least one customer.
At least one.
At least two. Sarah Weldon, also from yesterday's stream. Both of us are really excited to use a tuner with that GFX.
Oh, that's really
102.
interesting.
Really beautiful camera. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with it, but
Not
we can
yet.
play with it off camera. Really,
I'd like to see
really a
it.
kick-ass system.
Last point on that last question, though, is that, we're getting into the point now where you start saying, well, we could probably do more PL, more LPL stuff if we actually have more access to the lens. So being a separate, being sort of a separate accessory that has to go in between, we lose a lot of space. But if we did some collaboration on a prime lens, or if we did our own prime lens, which at the moment we didn't really want to do, then we have a lot more flexibility to say, no, we're just going to build this into the back of the lens. But having to go from mount to adapter to mount chews up a lot of space. So I think in the PL, LPL world, we almost have to work with someone or do something ourselves to actually make this not an adapter.
Bring back the Red Pro primes, that's what I say.
Yeah.
Or actually unique optics, that would be even better.
Oh my God.
Bring it back.
I'm going to write a book about that. That's someday.
All right. Well, really lovely having you on, Michael. Thank you so much. If you're just joining the stream or you just want to recap, you're looking at us through a Module 8 L1 tuner. We're somewhere around the 60 to 80% strength, I think, with an 80 millimeter Orion. We went all the way to 10, so I'm jumping around here. But thank you so much to B for technical production today on today's live stream and accommodating a stream that just, never happens on a Wednesday. So yeah, check out Module 8. Come see us at Wednesday. We're here. We're serving coffee and crepes for free in Glendale, California. Hope you're going to have a crepe with me after this. I'm excited to dig in. And see you next Tuesday. Everybody, have a lovely week. Big shout out to the film The Creator. Go see The Creator this Friday. Next week, we're going to have a special live on Thursday, the following Thursday, with Orion Soffer, one of the cinematographers involved in The Creator, the new Gareth Edwards film. Super thrilled.
Congratulations on that. That's amazing that they used your stuff.
We're really grateful. They chose an early 42 millimeter Mercury prototype for a lot of the movie, And I'm really excited to have B and the team here dig in deep with Orion, ask a lot of hard-hitting questions about the creator. I know I have my tickets for Friday. Go see the creator this Friday. Let us know that you saw it. Can't wait to see you next week. Have a great one. Thanks for joining the stream. Peace out.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks again.
Ah.